Yes, everybody. This is the Washington Wrestling Rankings podcast back again, Sam, with a good one, my guy. How are you doing? How's everybody doing this Memorial Day weekend? Thank you, everybody, for your service. Everybody tuning in, giving us some great feedback. We really appreciate it. We got a good one, Sam. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Yeah, thanks to all the vets. We're excited to be on Memorial Day, but also, we understand that today is a very special day for those who have served, and that's the reason why we're doing this right now. Is for people who have served and kept us safe over the course of time here in America. So, but yeah, man, I'm stoked, man. I've had a great weekend. Did some golfing. I know you got off the course today, Matt. We were talking
just
about
got off the course. It was crazy because a train came through and I almost thought I was going to be late because you just never know how big these trains can be. But I just was on the course a minute ago. My face is flush red. Not flushed like my golf balls, I'll tell you that much. But we're back. I don't know if I might get some trolls hating on me talking about another sport, because last week I wore my football jersey. They were like, "This is a wrestling podcast." I was like, "Great, now I can't wear what I want to wear anytime."
Well,
but
Brandon will probably bridge the gap a little bit. We got some golf questions for him later on in the show because we know he's a golfer, and so they can't trash on you too much, right? Like, this is our guest of honor as a golfer too. So
okay, well, he's in the back room. Let's just bring him on. One Brandon Kaylor, Oregon State University, Bonnie Lake High School. Brandon Kaylor, what's going on, buddy?
How's it going, guys? I'm doing well.
Hey, man, thank you so much for jumping on with us. And actually, Sam wrote down some of your accolades here. If you've got a second or 30 seconds, we'll run down your entire accolades here. Yeah. 4-time state champion from Bonnie Lake, one of 18 to ever do it in Washington State history. Brandon, that's incredible right there. And actually, Brandon, my very first question comes right off the back of that. In 30 seconds, can you name the other 17 on the list? No.
Okay. I got like 3 off the top of my head.
Okay, just joking. Also, 7-time Fargo All-American, one of only 9 in Washington to ever earn 7 or more All-Americans. 2017 Fargo National Champion in Greco, 4-time NCAA qualifier, and a 2022 NCAA All-American. Did we get it all?
I got one more.
What
one more. I left this one out, Matt, when I sent you the show sheet, but he was a double Pan Am champ in 2017. Is that right, Brandon?
Yep.
Freestyler and Greco.
Yep.
Man, he's got some credits.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, he gave me the list that didn't have it all on there, Brandon. We apologize for that. But man, you're awfully decorated and obviously one of the best to ever do it in Washington State. And that's quite an accomplishment for you. And we just appreciate having you on the podcast. We think you're a really, really huge name here. Every time I open up my mouth saying Brandon Kaylor's name, everybody here knows about you and consistently still kind of keeps involved with what you got going on. You're one of the best to ever do it. Also, we're a rankings podcast. Sam has been toying around with like a all-time rankings kind of a thing. I don't know why, but he's telling me that, based on the rankings, you might be in the top 5 conversation of all time here, Brandon, which is pretty awesome. So let's start with the first one. Growing up and when did you start wrestling? Were you from a wrestling family or?
So I started wrestling at 6, like most lifelong wrestlers, right? Started the Puyallup Falcons and good old Puyallup, Washington, and
P-Town, that's what they call it.
They do call it P-Town. I wrestled because my dad started wrestling in high school. Started his sophomore year just to be his grandma's favorite wrestler. That was his favorite grandchild, and that was his gist of it. So I started wrestling at 6 at Puyallup, and I instantly hated it. Like, I just was like, I remember my mom would tell you the same thing. I'm just crying. Like, I don't want to go to practice. It's too hard. It's weird. I'm getting beat up left and right. And she said, "Hey, you know what? Tough luck. I paid the fees. You're wrestling for the full year." And my dad was the one that was like, "Hey, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't make him wrestle. Maybe it's not for him." And she's like, "Oh, I don't care. We paid the dues. He's doing it." So I owe a lot to her and obviously my dad as my coach, but my mom for saying, "Noah, suck it up and go get tough."
Wow. Now, was your dad raised by your grandma, or Was your grandma just around a lot, really? Or because I was raised by my grandma, and I know you're kind of feeling it too, but grandmas, they're ruthless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whenever my grandma, people would come over, it's like, she's a hussy, I'm like, Grandma, what is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I never even heard of that, but my grandma was always really tough. So was your dad raised by his grandma, or is she just always around?
Just around, just real close. Rest her soul. She was an amazing lady, and she is from Germany, full German. She was real big into the WWF, WWE, so she was always into wrestling. And I remember when I was a kid, and I was like, Grandma, I'm wrestling, and she'd say, hey, don't be like those nasty boys. Be like Gorgeous George. Be like the tough, the good guy, the hero, just like your dad was. So we never really understood what real wrestling was, but she loved it, and she loved that my dad did it. She loved that I did it. So I mean, you can't complain. You want to be the favorite. It's never a bad thing to be grandma, great grandma's favorite. So
yeah, it wasn't until Kurt Angle came around that that gap started to be bridged a little bit. Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, so you did Puyallup Falcons, and then Team Aggression rolled around at some point, right? How did that get started, and then how did you get involved with them?
So my dad, Alex Cruz's dad, Brandon Cruz, and Isaac Clark's dad, Raphael, a couple other people like Paul Coulter. They're like, hey, let's just get like a club that can travel, and everyone's so focused on that PCJWL, that junior wrestling league, right? And that's great, nothing against it, but it's not going to take you to the long haul, just like you said, bridging that gap. We want to catch up to those states like the Pennsylvanias and New Jerseys and Iowas, right? So they go, what if we make like a little select club with just the kids in the area, and we see how far it can take us? And I mean, it's funny because I was just in Gilroy, California with Daniel Cormier and his club kids, and one of his guys was wearing Team Aggression shorts, and I go, how do you have those? And he's like, oh, well, I know like Apollo Cruz and Arcadius and a lot of the guys over there. And then he goes, yeah, Team Aggression, that's a cool club. Do you know about them? And I was like, oh, buddy, let me tell you, I know a little something about those guys. So it's cool to see it's thriving, and people are still working hard, and you got some studs in there now.
Yeah, it's still a really big club in Washington, just based on what I've seen as far as numbers and people doing big things at locally, but also like nationally and stuff too. You guys did a really good job of starting that up. Props to your dad and some others of getting that club going. We need that in this state, and Team Aggression is one of those corner pieces to developmental wrestling here in Washington outside of schools. So that's awesome, man. And then I was reading an article also just with some quotes from your dad. This was like when you were starting to grow up and starting to get into high school and stuff. And we're going to talk about dad a little bit. So he said that he made a deal with you that if you're serious about wrestling, that he would do anything to make your dreams become a reality. Did he hold up his end of the bargain there? I think he probably did, or did he not? Or did you hold up your end of the bargain? How'd that play out?
I think it's 50-50. I mean, he gave me every opportunity. It's never easy when your dad's your coach, right? And I think anyone can attest to that, especially in a sport like wrestling. But I mean, he took me near and far, whether it was on Sundays, having hard practices at the local gym with the best guys. I'm in middle school, and Michael Solar, a 4-time state champion, is coming to work out with us. We're going to Spokane to work out with Clay and Isaiah Quintanilla. We're going to Woodinville to Ryan Christensen, driving down to Oregon to wrestle with Colin Purrington, wrestle in Nebraska. Joey Costi, that Viper Wrestling Club, going to Idaho, Spokane again, like I said, wrestling Ridge Lovett out in Post Falls. Like, he did everything he could to help me be successful. Solo missions, just dad and son, going to Flow Nationals, driving to Fargo. I mean, he's the man. I mean, that's not a lot of kids can say that their dad was their coach and their dad and still have a great relationship. So I'm super blessed, and I mean, he's the best.
Well, so describe those trips. I mean, those trips have to be in your mind as just kind of some of those core memories that you had with your dad. I mean, how did those trips go? What are some of those core memories? Do you have a couple?
Just depends. Did I win or lose?
Ah!
No, I mean, we traveled, near and far. I mean, some of my favorite memories was taking third at Super 32, and he was there. The Pan Am Games was awesome, seeing him in the crowd. Flow Nationals, I remember I lost in the finals. And then he goes, "Is now a good moment to tell you what you did wrong?" And I was like, "I mean, yeah, it is, but you're going to tell me anyways. You're my dad."
Yeah.
So he goes, from coach's standpoint, let's leave the father-son out of this. Here, you did ABC. And I was like, "Hey, it would have been nice if you told me that like during the match. Maybe I could have won." And just laughing and just getting to that point in that relationship. The 4-state title was cool. The first year state title was cool. I mean, but my favorite was probably when I won Pac-12s. A lot of people know this, a lot of people don't, but I wrestled Brandon Courtney, Arizona State wrestler. I mean, phenomenal wrestler. But I was like 0-8 against him. Like I'd never beaten him from my freshman year, true freshman, all the way up to 2 years ago. And I beat him in rideouts in the Pac-12 finals. And I remember celebrating, jumping in my dad's arms and in the back tunnel doing sprints. And I started tearing up and everyone's like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, "I'm just emotional. My dad's here. My mom, stepmom are here. My family's here. And they're supporting me. What's not to be excited or emotional about?" So
Yeah, I got I did not do as well as you in high school, but I remember the one time it was my senior year and I was going to state and my dad, he's not my coach at all. My dad barely knew anything about anything. I love him, but not really. He got the award in middle school it's called the Squeeze Him Award because that's all he would yell, just out his lungs, blow him out, squeeze him to the side. And I remember I beat this Issaquah kid and I was going to the finals of regionals. And I remember I just walked to my dad. I just broke down in tears. Like I've never cried before, hugging him. Cause I was like, dang, I'd wanted this for so long. And it's kind of great to be able to have that emotional connection and also be able to have, put that aside and have that coach connection as well too. Do you think that that's why you guys work so well in that dynamic? Because I know that some parents, some kids can't really keep that emotion from some of that technical stuff that you guys get into talking about as father, son, and coach and student.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, there was days where I wanted nothing to do with him. You have a hard practice, he's harping on you, or a bad tournament, and he's like, "Man, what were you thinking out there?" And he did a great job of sometimes stepping back as a coach and being more of a father and saying, "Why don't you go to Brandon Cruz, go to Raph? Let's go take you to other coaches, and you can get a different perspective." Of course, a lot of coaches are going to say the same thing. It's not rocket science in wrestling, right? So just hearing it from other people made that light bulb click. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, maybe my dad is right. Maybe he does know more than I think he does. But he did a phenomenal job of being as hard as he can be, but just loving me unconditionally. So I'm forever grateful for that.
Yeah, that's a bit of that is called growing up, right? It's like
Yeah.
you realize it, you're like, dang it, I wish I could get over on this guy. And actually, it's kind of I want to pause real quick because you said Ridge love it, and I want to say the Cedar Woolley coach hit me up the other day. You guys are coming out to do a camp here in Cedar Woolley this summer. I think Ridge is a part of that as well. Can you speak on that? I think.
Yes.
Do you have the dates, Andy, or?
No, it's on my phone. Like it's on Do Not Disturb. But it is in July.
I got it right here. So July 25th to July 25th to 27th. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So it's you, Brock Hardy, Ridge Lovett, some others are coming for a couple days up at Cedar Woolley, $175 a person, but you get to come back home. And what's your connection with the Cedar Woolley? I mean, how did that end up happening?
A lot of times it's just those that reach out. And I love camps. I love kids. I mean, and I'm the camp clinician, counselor / wrestler dude that like I want to see you guys succeed. I'm gonna show you my best stuff and what I like to do. And I hope it sticks with it. It's not you get your money's worth. At least I think so when people tell me that. But yeah, Ridge, close friend since we were kids. He's bringing Brock Hardy. I'm bringing Mason Renich, Greco World Team member here at Oregon State, Tennessee guy. So we're super excited. Just got back from a camp, the Gut Check Wrestling Camp in Vancouver, where me and Justin Rademacher, he's our freshman 197-pounder national qualifier, went and helped out a camp with Aaron Brooks and Gray Kirklevet. So that was an awesome experience. You just love being around great wrestlers, man. There's just something about it that gets you excited. And whether you're a young guy in your career like Justin or old and retired like me, wrestling gets you exciting.
Now there's a story, Brandon, and I hate to bring this up maybe as we get into your high school career here, but there's a story of you. Now you might be able to tell a little bit better than me because I'm hearing it through the grapevine, but you're running barefoot on a road or something, and your dad's in front of you in the truck. Can you tell me about what story I'm hearing about this here?
Yeah. Okay. So wrestling, tough. Wrestling's hard. We all know that. There were days where I was not tough. I was soft. There were days where my dad's like, man, you can be so dang good, but you're kind of a baby some days. Like, we got to get you tough. Some days where you want to be quick like John Smith. Like, that's who we loved watching. You want a good low single, a good outside sweep. Like, we got to get your feet tough. So we lived on this gravel road. And some days he'd just drop me off at the bottom. And he'd be in the front driving to make sure like no cars are coming and just to make sure I'm safe. And depending on the day, I either had shoes on or I didn't. I had socks on or I didn't. And I had to run up that gravel road in under a minute or I had to do it again.
Oh, geez.
And it was more times than not, about 50-50. I was probably barefoot. And he's like, well, if you're not going to have quick feet on the mat, you're going to have quick feet out here because these rocks are sharp. And I tell these to kids all the time, and they think I'm crazy. But you know, when your dad tells you to do something, you do it. When he sees the potential, you do it even harder. So
yeah, it's like one of those things that you're like not thankful in the moment, right? Like, you know, dad's being tough on you or coach is being tough on you, and you're like, what is going on right now? Like, is this for real? You know, is this like actually happening? Am I running on this road barefoot in gravel?
Right.
And then and then you get farther on down the road and you're like, wow, that was kind of badass, you know? Like, not a lot of people can say that they did that, you know? And you just feel like you just elevated your toughness level a little bit. And it just takes some type of leadership or some type of mentor to like break that through in you, right?
Yeah. And it helps when it's your dad, you know? I mean, if looking back at it now, like you said, in hindsight, it was horrible. I'm like, why in the heck am I doing this? This is so dumb. And then you fast forward 10, 15 years, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it was worth it in the end. So
yeah, and it's funny, these stories I hear because we've you know, throughout the years, all of us have heard these stories, but it seems to always happen when it's the good ones, you know, the dogs, the guys like you, and it's like, oh wow, these stories, yeah, that was Brandon Kaylor, and it's like, oh wow, that's why he went D1, that's why he's the 4-timer, you know, and it's like, wow, you know, you get a second to kind of look back on those things, and you're like, wow, that's character building, and you don't get that stuff as much anymore, but you know, not that I'm like a proponent of doing this stuff all the time, but it's like you can see it and see that it kind of created who you were, and I think it's good to hear because we came from those times, right, Sam? You know what I mean? I remember when a coach was like, "Yeah, you got to make weight. You cut your nose, okay? Drip the 0.2 out of here." And I was like, "Whoa, dude!"
Yeah. I was cutting my hair at weigh-in sometimes, dude. Like, because my hair was all long and I had like 0.2 left. You know, back in the days, you weigh in naked.
Yeah,
I had like nothing left to take off, and like there was like, all right, we're snipping some hair off here, dude. Like,
yeah, still
like,
missed it. It's crazy. He still missed the weight. So.
Just ended up with some choppy haircut. It's like, all right, well,
bad haircut and missed the weight. It's even worse.
You gotta have one or the other. I guess not in this case. Neither.
Let's talk about high school, man. Let's dive into your high school career. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, you know, as much as we need to, because you got a lot of wrestling beyond high school. But your high school run was super special, man. Like Matt was saying, you know, I'm starting to, you know, follow the brand here a little bit with rankings, and you know, we're going to be doing rankings as much as we can for, you know, the high schoolers here moving forward throughout the season. But yeah, I've been looking at just some I'm like, you know what, let's look at like all time, you know, and there's a lot to look at, right? There's a lot to look at. You got just, you know, 4-time state champions, right? There's only 18 of them. You're one of them. And then you've got a bunch of Fargo All-Americans. You have multi Fargo, you know, national champions as well, right? You've got high school nationals champions. There's a ton of stuff that we can like look at. But I just want to ask you about like your high school career. And we talked about this with Trey Haynes a little bit on the first episode. Was, you know, you win it your freshman year. I kind of want to ask you the same question about the way things went when you won it your freshman year, and you look at it like you're like, okay, well, it's almost like no question, everybody's expecting you to win it 3 more times. What was that pressure like for you? And did you what was your, I know it's a long period, right? This is a pretty big sample size going from sophomore year to senior year, but like, I can relate to a little bit because I was in the finals 3 times and I had that pressure my senior year, but like, I felt like I didn't really enjoy my high school career that much because there was such a target on my back and it was so much pressure. Talk about the pressure and what it was like after your freshman year going into the next few years.
Yeah. It was interesting. It's funny because a lot of people will say, oh, well, you ducked competition because you were small. No, I'm small because my mom is 5'0" and Filipino. My freshman year of high school, I was 94 pounds. Like, and that's nothing I can do about that. My sophomore year, I was 103 pounds. Like, there's just really nothing I could do about that. But I never really felt that pressure, so to speak, until like my junior year in the finals, because that's when everyone's like, oh, most people that were supposed to be 4-timers lost their junior year. Like, it's never their freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, oh. And then people start chirping in your ear and you take it how you take it. And that's when I was like, oh, like heart's beating pretty fast, and you're like, oh, it's the state finals. Like, we're at the Tacoma Dome and now you have to win. Now you're already 2 down. And that was my junior year was probably the best year I had. I was 47-0. I went undefeated at junior duels in both styles. I won the Pan Am games, double Fargo finalist. So that year to me was like my pivotal year of like, oh, I can really do this. I can hang with these dudes. But that pressure did build up and then it just kind of left. It was just like, it is what it is. Like, we're just wrestling at this point. And I didn't really feel it again. Even my senior year going to college, I wasn't going to go to Fargo. And Coach Zaleski was who recruited me at Oregon State. Was like, you should go. I'm like, hey, coach, I'm weighing 116 pounds. I'm thinking about going to 113 for Fargo. He's like, oh, that's dumb. Why would you do that? I'm like, well, it's 3 pounds. He goes, well, what do you wrestle in college?
Right.
I was like, 125. He goes, then why would you wrestle 113? Wrestle those big guys. So when you say 7-time All-American, it sucks because that was the only year I didn't All-American. I lost, I think, the blood rounds of freestyle. And I was like, oh, that stung. So, but that's growing pains, and that's how you get better, right?
Yeah, Coach Owen talked about that in episode 3 with us. Putting your losses at risk, right? And it's probably a little harder for you to find that, a little bit. But going up a weight, you had to put some of those losses at risk, and you did that, and it was probably beneficial for you. Can you talk about your coaches at Bonnie Lake? I know your dad was one of the coaches, but Dan Pitch was another coach of yours. I know his brother pretty well. Pat was at some like Fargo like training camps and stuff with me randomly back in the day. But so Dan was your head coach.
Hold on,
right?
I went to ASU wrestling camp as well, and Pat Pitch was there too. He's a crazy guy.
Yeah, Pat's a funny dude.
Funny, yeah, really super funny. And
Mm-hmm.
he had a moped, and he was just freaking him on a moped after practice in 117-degree weather, middle of June, July, whatever it was. Man, those were times. And just to let you know, during that time, it was Cain Velasquez, Ryan Bader, CB Dalloway, Pat Pitch. I mean, ASU had a team of dogs there, and they were all entering in the MMA world essentially right around the same time. Aaron Simpson, who was coach of the Sunkist Kids team, and they all went to MMA and had some really successful careers. So Pat Pitch was all a part of that too. So he and dude had a body. The guy is just like so natural. Anyway, sorry, fanboyed over Pat Pitch there for a minute, but what was Dan Pitch meant to you?
No, it was good. I mean, high school at Bonnie Lake, it was great. I was in the Puyallup school district my whole life, but yeah, Coach Pete, Jeff Kaylor is the man. He is. I went to Bonnie Lake because in the Puyallup school district, they didn't offer high school athletics as a freshman. So it's like you wrestle in high school for 3 years or 4, like what means the most in the long run. So it wasn't until my sophomore year that you could start wrestling as a freshman or doing other sports as a freshman at the high schools, because they have junior highs. They have 7, 8, 9, high schools 10, 11, 12.
I remember that a little bit when I think even Tahoma back then, I think they were only a 3-year high school. When they might have changed it since then, I'm not sure, but I know you're talking about. There was a lot of schools back then that only were sophomore through senior, and so how did that work out? You were like I switched schools midway through to have a better wrestling experience. That's how crazy my family was. How did that work out with yours? They were just like, okay, like we got to find out a way to get into Bonnie Lake.
Yeah.
Was it difficult?
A little bit, kind of. My parents got divorced my freshman year of high school. And it was kind of seen like, that was the route that was going to be taken. And I mean, divorced parents are divorced parents, but they had one thing in mind and say, hey, we got to support our children. And that was buying a house, apartment, whatever it was in Bonnie Lake to get me there to wrestle as a freshman, whether I'm 94 pounds or not. So they made the sacrifices they did to help support me, and I'm forever grateful. But yeah, I mean, having Dan as a coach was great. Just someone that's been in that college scene, that college air, that college room, knowing what it takes. But having my dad there was, I mean, it was the highlight. It's just, he coached me since I was 6. So why stop now? Even to this day, I go home in the summer and he's like, hey, let's work. We got more to do. So it's been a blessing.
Yeah. And the real nuts and bolts of that room, obviously, if you search your name and you put Bonnie Lake in there as well, it brings up your trio that you had there. Well, it was a duo for a while, and then Yusuf came on later on. But talk about your teammates, Brendan and Yusuf, and what they meant to you during your time there.
Oh man, I mean, it's not often, especially around here, that you have 3 Fargo champs on one team.
Mm-hmm.
Even less likely that they're back to back weight classes.
Mm-hmm.
So to have those guys, and that was the backbone of our team. We had a lot of great teammates in Sam Peterson, Evan Tracy. Like we had Zach Kohler, David Wood. Like we had people, but when you get those like a group of hammers, especially in the same weight classes, you jump levels. You get better. There is no easy practice. It's every day. Yusuf's going to take your head off, or Brendan's going to take your head off, or I'm proving a point that I'm the biggest of the 3. I have to lay down the law, right? So. And then
can you pronounce Brendan's last name for me? Because this was when I was on my sabbatical from wrestling, and Matt probably was too. We took some time off, and then looking back on your career and Brendan's career, I'm looking at his last name. I was like, maybe should I try it on the podcast? Should I give it a shot? What is it? How do you pronounce it?
We just say Chihuahua people. Just as quick as you can say it, the easier it is. We call him Chow. Good
Chow. Okay, I had a feeling that might have been his nickname. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you still close to those boys now? I know Yusuf's wrestling at Utah Valley, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I'll see Yusuf every chance I get. I'm always checking in on him during seasons. It's my little brother. He lived with me for a little bit. I mean, I wanted to come to Oregon State so bad, but he's doing his thing out there in Utah Valley, and I'm proud of him. But yeah, I mean, I do my best. They always say like you got friends in high school, then your real friends are in college. So I mean, I got my friends from high school, like those boys, but then I like David, Zach, Yusuf, and then here in college, you got like the Willett twins, Grant Hunter, Colt Doyle, Devin Turner, Mateo Olmos. Like you get that core group, and then the guys still wrestling like Mason Renich, Ryan Reyes. So it's community. So
yeah, the high school wrestling brotherhood, that never fades. Whether or not you guys fade, from each other, you guys always went through those times. You're very impressionable during those years, and emotions were always really high. But like in high school, again, you were a 7-time All-American freestyle Greco-Roman wrestler. Do you consider yourself to be a better freestyler than you are at folk style, or what do you think?
It's hard. So I'll be honest, I hate bottom in both freestyle, Greco, and folk style, all of them. I don't like getting gutted. I definitely don't get like someone putting boots on.
Right.
I think I say I was more successful in Greco just because I won Fargo in Greco and I took second in freestyle. But I mean, I like them all. I mean, I'm a little biased because I did win Greco, but I'm a fan of it all.
So you're equal parts, everything. You like it all for its own different reasons. That's all right. That's the easy way out, Brandon, but we'll take it.
I will say that college wrestling top bottom is difficult. I will say that. So that is no bueno. It's no fun.
I guess that's a good segue for us to get into college. I mean, your storied career in high school led you to Oregon State. what drove you to make the decision to go to Oregon State officially? I know it's close to home. That's got to be one, right? But was that the main driving factor, or what else was it?
I mean, Oregon State had been last on my list, like of my like top 5 narrowed down. And I won't get into specifics of what school said what or where I was visiting, but Oregon State was like of my top 5 last. I was always that kid. I got to get as far away from home as possible. Like, you live in this, it's not like Puyallup, Bonnie Lake's a big area. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I need to go to East Coast, Midwest somewhere. And when I took my visit to Oregon State, it was just, again, divorced parents. So one parent goes to one visit and the next, right? We kind of go back and forth. And when I took this visit, it was my second one. I was like, oh, I like this place. I remember getting out my car because they said, hey, we'll pay for your flights or gas money. Like my mom's driving and you pick your poison. I remember getting out of the car at the wrestling room and coaches met me outside and they said, hey, everyone's playing basketball over yonder. And I just bought a brand new pair of red Vans. I was looking cool. We played basketball and Devin Turner scuffed him. And I was like, no way. Like just straight black skid mark over the top of my shoes. And I was like, I should punch this guy. Now, would I get beat up? 100%. But was I in my head thinking, oh, I got it? And he just comes over. He's like, hey, man, I'm so sorry. Dust him off. Let me buy you a new pair. And I was like, what? He's like, I owe you something. And I was like, oh, no. And then meeting the Willits and then Colt Doyle and then like all these guys, I go, wow, this place is like, I mean, you instantly have brothers right there. Like it was
Felt
instant.
like family, felt like home right away. Huh?
Yeah. And just the way you were treated, because when you get recruited, coaches tell you ABC, but do they really mean it? Or is it just a recruiting scheme? And I felt loved. I felt like, man, this is the place. And Boise State recently going out, like, why not stay and promote this area of wrestling? Like, this is where I call home, and been here for 6 years, graduating with the master's degree in MBA in marketing, and I couldn't be more excited to still be here.
So you were recruited by Zaleski, you said, and I'm not sure exactly what year that was. That had to have been what, like 2018, 2019, right?
Yeah. I graduated in 18, so I started at Oregon State the
19-20 season, or the 18-19 season.
18-19, yeah.
Okay, so you had a couple years with Zaleski, and then COVID hit.
Yep. And
then Coach Pendleton got hired on. We want to dive into that. That was kind of a big one for us. Was how did you handle that? Were you considering transferring based off of a coaching change? Was it a shock, or was it like, okay, I'm just gonna roll the punches here and just do what I do because I'm already here?
It was tough. I remember getting off that bus from the airport, and they called Coach Zaleski in, the ADs at the time, and they just said, hey, I think we're going to part ways. And that was hard. Zaleski was like the first coach that I had felt truly myself around and that I loved more than just in the sport of wrestling. And a lot of guys can attest to this, that the way he treated me was hilarious, but it came from a good place. And they go, man, we don't really see him treat other guys like that. Like, and not like a favoritism or special, but just the interactions of humor and you felt a part of something, right? And when he got let go, that was tough. When you say transferring, I mean, that definitely crossed my mind. And going into the AD's office, like, this is bogus. Like, and he goes, how can I help you? I go, I just want to enter the portal. And he goes, why don't you just wait and see who the hire is? So you don't even know what the future has in store. And I was 20, 21 around there. And I was like, what more could you bring me? And Coach Pendleton got hired, and then Nate Angle, and then Isaiah Martinez, and then Coach Mike Kasoy. So the ball was rolling, and it was great. That first year was tough for me. That just growing pains, that transition to have a new coach, a whole new style. It's not like one coach was there. Your head coach gets let go, and then when Coach Pendleton gets hired, the other coaches aren't on board anymore. And then COVID hits. So it's like bang, bang, bang. Like, oh man, like, what am I still doing here? So that was super tough. And that was like one of my lower points in my college career, calling my dad, like, I shouldn't be here. And then Coach Pendleton gets here and he hits the ground running. We're doing probably the hardest workouts I've ever done in my entire life. I mean, you can't really wrestle because of COVID. And I mean, just hammers of workouts. We do Kochka, Cuban circuits, we're doing 45-pound plate runs, like consistent miles. So it got tough, and I didn't have a good year. Like I really didn't. I didn't wrestle that great. I think I went like 9-7. But I qualified for the national tournament, went 0-2, and coaches had some words with me. They go, "Hey, you can be great, but you're just not really. We feel like you have a higher ceiling than you think you do." And to me, that sucks. Like you hear that and you go, "Well, I think I work hard. I think I put the time in." But when your coaches are telling you otherwise, it sucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a hard selling point for me. And that's when I was like, well, I think I'm doing my best, but they don't. Maybe I shouldn't be here. And I had thoughts of transferring again, right? And Coach Angle told me, he goes, "Hey, like, why don't he's like, make me a promise. Let's go one more good year. Let's see how you do." He goes, "Give us a full season, like a full real season, to see how far you can go. And then if you still hate us," and not that I hated them, "but if you still hate this situation and it's not what you wanted, then we'll sign the papers, you can leave." And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good deal. I mean, that makes sense. Like a full real season with this staff. What can we do? And I All-Americaned.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, "Hey, like, okay, that's the ceiling for you. That's where you should be. You should be on that podium."
That's awesome.
So what do you think? What do you think happened differently in that next year? Do you think it was just you fully buying into it, or was there something that clearly changed? Was it you? Was it the coaching staff? Was it the connections you had with them, or was it just purely you got better?
A couple things. I think there's 3 big things. I know everyone knows I have a great outside single, and I was getting there, but I wasn't finishing. There's that. So like Coach Pendleton helped me really develop my wrestling game on my feet, like club catch, hitting that outside dump. That was phenomenal. That really helped. Another big thing was it's never been hidden that I gas out in matches, not from a lack of athleticism or wrestling, but a lack of like emotional. Like you're squeezing out there, you're freaking out, you're getting nervous. And I see Coach. I don't know if people can people see comments.
Everybody can see this. Yeah.
So Coach Pete, Godfidence. I had to take a real leap of faith and reposition and understand my values and where they came from. And before I get into Godfidence, the coaches had us. I think it's here. Maybe it's in my. I think I might have loaned it. We read a book called "Chop Wood, Carry Water," and it's about a guy that goes to be a samurai archer, and all he wants to do is shoot that bow and arrow and be an archer. And what I got out of this book was he's so focused on the outcome of being an archer that he's not focused on enjoying the process of being great and building from that and learning how to be that archer he wants to be. So a sensei would always say, "Hey, go chop wood, carry water." He comes back, "All right, I did it for days on days. Okay, we'll do it again." Well, I mean, like in my eyes, like, "Coach, okay, Coach Pendleton, Angle, like I'm doing it. I'm working hard. We'll do it some more. And you'll get there when you're ready." And the 2 biggest things I took from that book was, one is that whole saying "you rise to the occasion" is BS. If I never studied for a math test, I will not go into that classroom and rise to the occasion and pass.
Right.
If I never train or work hard, I will never go out there on the mat and win. But you fall to your sorry, I'm choking my words. I'm getting excited to.
No, we love this. Like, keep. No, you're fine.
You fall to the level of preparations is what it says. Like,
Mm.
that's true. If you're not working hard, you can't be great. And the other part of the book is saying, "Hey, if I took away your ability to be an archer, what would you be today?" And he's like, "Well, I'd be nothing." And he goes, "And that's the problem. That's the wrong answer." It says in the book, you're called to be greater things than just some archer. You're called to be an amazing son, amazing human being. You're called to be a child of God. You're called to be so many more things than just this archer that you want to be. And that took a lot of like stress from wrestling away. That like allowed me to open up and focus less on the outcome and more on the process of it. And then connecting with Coach Pete and getting stronger in my faith is just, it opened doors I didn't think would be opened. It made relationships better, my connection with my parents even stronger than it was before, being able to find someone to spend the rest of my life with, trusting my coaches, trusting my partners, like so many things, just avenues, doors. And it all stemmed from just a couple little details. It all stemmed from a new coaching staff. And just not that the old staff was bad, but these coaches just emphasized, they put a stamp on it and say, this is what we need to realize and focus on in life. And that changed my career.
It's actually pretty fun to watch. Like sports psychology now is becoming such a big deal. You know, I just came off the golf course, but I remember watching Full Swing on Netflix, where, you know, they all got you know, sports psychologists talking about it, because it's just hitting a ball, right? It seems like that should all it be, but it's not. It's way more than that. And I think it's pretty important to tell some of the listeners here, which Yusuf Lilly tuned in, by the way. Yusuf is in here. So what's up, Yusuf? We just talked about you. Scroll back a little bit, but it's important to know that you have to embrace the grind too. It's not just about getting to the grind. It's not just about doing the grind. Now you're on the other end of that grind, and like you were just mentioning, hey, I did it. You know, I'm here. I already did it. Well, do it again. You know, and it's like, wow, that's, you know, that seems to be super powerful, because once you start to understand, it's not about the grind at all. And it's just great. Sorry, I cut into there though. But you mentioned about how you were considering transferring, and you were considering transferring at more than one occasion. Do you feel fine in your decision to stay, one, and two is, you know, where would you have gone? Just we talked about this with London, Houston, and it was just be nice to kind of know, like, when you decide you maybe or may not want to go in the transfer portal, like, how does that decision go in your mind? Like, do you start reaching out to other coaches, or like, do coaches start, once your name's in a pile, like other people start hitting you up? Like, what's that process like?
Yeah. So I actually never entered the portal.
Right.
On either occasion. So I never reached out. But obviously, like we're talking earlier, we have a lot of wrestling's a tight-knit community. You got friends at other schools saying, hey, we'd love to have you. And obviously, that's an athlete talking. It's a little different from the coaches or that standpoint. But I was just so fixated on getting out, saying I can't be great here. And that was, I never had a set school in mind where I got to go here, I got to go there. It was just, I got to get out of here. Reality wasn't here. That was the problem. It was just what's in my head. You're going to be great no matter where you go. Coaching's coaching, wrestling's wrestling. Every coach has an accolade. I mean, tell me one Division I head coach that has 0 accolades. You really can't, right? So there was that aspect of, man, there's something greater over on down the road. And that's where my mind was at. And that's what it took a coach like Angle to say, no, we can be great here. You just got to trust in us. You got to believe in us. And that's what it took. And Angle knows I'm forever grateful for him. And that's like, to me now, as I'm graduated now, I look to him as like a mentor, as a big brother, like someone that really wants nothing but the best for me.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's you're I didn't know anything about this, man. There's this journey post-COVID is pretty wild for you, and the way that it all played out with you and you know, your mind, and the way that you found that book, and you found you know, just a different mindset as opposed to a different scenery. Sometimes this different scenery plays very well, you know, to other people. It actually might, you know, springboard that new mindset for some people, but you stayed there, but you were also able to capture that change in the mindset, and which really catapulted you there forward. I want to talk about this a little bit too, as well. Like, just looking at some interviews with you on Flow Wrestling. There was one that stuck out to me where you're talking about, forgive me for not remembering the exact match it was, but it was at the NCAAs, and you were talking about being really nervous before one of your matches, right? And we all get it, right? Like, this is a very hard sport, and nerves are normal. Like, that's what, you know, Coach Matt and I tell our, you know, high school wrestlers is, it's normal. Don't feel like it's not. You're just as nervous, you know, if not less than the other person you're wrestling. But you really dove into this quite a bit about how nervous you got, and I could relate to it. That's why it stuck out to me, was because you know, as that pressure cooker started to build with me, you know, that fight or flight response before you get on the mat can really, really start to mess with you.
Yeah.
And you were talking about, you know, throwing up before some matches. You were so nervous. How did you overcome that? And you probably can even touch more on this interview that I'm talking about some manifestation through some people who were telling you were going to do a dump and whatnot in the match. But talk about that match specifically a little bit, but then I'd also talk about like your nerves and how you overcame them and how you handled them, and you got better at it going forward.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's no secret, no surprise that I get nervous, or I still do, but not to the same extent. You can look at my Instagram. If you scroll way down, it's like I'm 12 years old and there's a picture of me puking, and it says, "Did someone say throw up Thursday?" Like that. I was known for puking before matches all the time. And Coach Angle can attest to that because he coached against me at Stanford, and I'm puking. And it was just a whole story. But yeah, so that was my blood round match at Nationals in Detroit. And like I told you, I read the book, I manifest, I prayed, and I do a lot of things. But when you're in that moment, sometimes it's hard to keep that same mindset through thick and thin. And we're in the thick of it. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like pacing back and forth. I'm in the blood rounds with my teammate Devin, and we're in the hotel room. He's like, "Dude, you need to relax." And I'm literally walking up and down the hallways of the hotel, and I'm like, "Dude, I'm freaking out. Like my heart is beating." And we're hours before I have to wrestle, like hours. And he's like, "Dude, you're making me feel weird. You need to leave." Okay. Like if my teammate's saying this, then I'm doing something wrong. Like I gotta fix my mindset and where my head's at. And I talked to Angle, and he's like, "Dude, relax." He goes, "You didn't come this far just to now crap the bed and all of a sudden like forget everything you worked for." He goes, "Just enjoy this opportunity and process." He's like, "I'll tell you what, you're gonna go out there, you're gonna outside dump this schmuck and suck him back and pin him." And in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, okay, like sounds great, like sure." And I leave the room, I call my dad. He's like, "Man, I'm sitting here praying, thinking, I really feel like you're gonna go out there and outside dump this dude and pin him in a suck back." And I'm like, "Wow, that's crazy. That's weird." Okay. And then, when I'm getting nervous, I call Coach Pete De La Rosa. I'm like, "Hey, Coach, I'm freaking out." He goes, "I've been praying for you." He goes, "And I got someone here next to me." And it was Nathan Tomasello, and we're talking. And the dude's like, "Hey, man, just go out there. Just lay it on the line. Remember, this is something greater than you. Like, we're wrestling for Christ here. And go out there and have some fun, hit your best moves, maybe pin the kid." And I'm like, "Oh, my gosh." Like 3-4 people that have not talked all day just told me the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in the match, and I take him down an outside dump. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's step one. All right, that's cool. There we go." And I remember like a sequence or flurry happened, and he hits like a little gator bacon roll through, and I'm on my back, and we bridge, and they're calling 2 takedown, near fall, maybe a pin, and they challenge it because the ref goes nothing. And I'm like, now I'm freaking out. Like, okay, like the plans fell through. It's not working. And I remember like sitting there like, it's a big match, and everything, all the other matches in the blood round have ended. It's just me for my weight class. And Pendleton goes, "Get over here." And Angle's like, "Hey, calm down, relax." And Pendleton goes, "Shh." And he just goes, smacks me on my face. I'm like, what are you doing? Like hard. And he goes, "Dude, focus up. You're winning the match. You're acting like it's over. We're in period 2. And I go, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "Relax, go wrestle, outside dump him again, pin the kid, let's celebrate." I'm like, okay. I do the exact same thing. I outside dump him. I'm riding him. He sits out. I suck him back and I pin him. I get up. I freak out. I jump in the coach's arm. I point to my dad. It's his birthday. And I'm like, "I told you guys I could do it." And I did it. So it was like this crazy, like I'm praying, dreaming of hitting outside dumps to a suck back. My dad's telling me, Coach Angle's telling me, Pendleton's telling me, Coach Pete's telling me, Nathan Tomasello, who I've never met before, is telling me. And it comes I'm like, now the problem is after that, I go to my dad. I'm freaking out. He goes, "Who cares if you ever win a match again? We did it." And of course, I go lose. So I went from being blood rounds All-American to 8th place. But that's beside the point. We were excited to be there. So
Absolutely, man. That's so cool. I love that story. I saw that on Flow and I was like, dude, I gotta bring it up. I gotta hear this from the source one more time. That's fantastic, dude. What was your teammate who you were in the hotel with saying afterwards?
Well, he was wrestling. So we had
he was.
we had, I think, 6 guys in the blood rounds.
Okay.
So it was crazy. It was because that was a tournament that Hunter Willits beat David Carr on the front side.
Okay.
So then we're on the back side. I pinned my kid All-American. I run around the stadium. coach was saying, hey, you got to cut weight, weigh-ins tomorrow. And I was like, screw that. I got to go watch my teammates, my boys. I see Devin out there. Boom. Devin wins All-American. I'm like, no way. Because it goes 25, 33, 41. I go, where's Grant? Grant's wrestling Chad Red, a kid he's never beat before. I mean, 4-time All-American, tough guy. Grant pins this dude in a cradle. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's really happening right now. Grant's like, okay, now we got to go find Hunter. That's his twin. Hunter wins in the blood rounds. And we went 4 for 4, first 4 weight classes.
Nice.
And Coach Pendleton tell you, to get into that arena, it was like 2 minutes. You just go through security, warming up. No one cares about us. We're just some Oregon State guys. And then leaving. I mean, it took us like an hour to get out of that place. Like everyone, Iowa fans, Penn State fans. I mean, everyone's like, man, you Oregon State boys, really, you showed up. And,
Nice.
and we did. And it was, I mean, that's what it can do.
That's really awesome to hear. And just want to tell everybody, we're coming up on 50 minutes. The Instagram live stream cuts out at an hour. If you want, tune right into our YouTube, where we will continue the conversation. But talk about some of the Washington guys on the team right now. Isaiah Anderson, 3-time state champ from Chihuahua. CJ Hamlin, 2-time from Mountain View. Can you speak about them a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I love those guys. I mean, they're great. I think that we have a lot of potential in this state, and I think that people don't see it at times. And who doesn't love a good underdog? I mean, these guys work their tails off. They're doing the right things, living the right lifestyles, and they want to be great. And there's nothing more to say about that than like I'm proud of each and every guy that wrestles. And I think that one thing is a common misconception in the sport of wrestling is you see guys like myself who are Division I or a CJ, Isaiah. Everyone thinks, man, I got to go Division I to be good. I think that's dumb. And I'll say that to anyone in the entire planet. I think if you're a wrestler or you're an athlete or you're anyone and you want to wrestle Division I, 2, 3, JUCO, NAIA, like any form of wrestling at the next level is wrestling at the next level. Like you're doing yourself a favor. Go somewhere that you can get some scholarship and you can get your degree. That's the ultimate goal here, right? Is wrestling's great, but it ends. That degree is going to take you a lot further in life than you think it will. So, and that's what I tell a lot of my club kids or even kids here in the community, like, oh, I want to do this, but I'm not getting looks. No, you're getting looks. You're just not looking back like at those people. You know, you got to set yourself up for success in the next chapter of your life after wrestling, because this is going to end. So,
yeah, I feel like it's so thin too. Like, you know, in general, most, you know, college athletes, there's some number out there, right? If you're wrestling in college, you're in the top, you know, what percent, 1% or something like that. But wrestling's even tighter when it comes to that. There's every high school in this country has wrestling, right? It's not like, you know, lacrosse, you know, or one of these sports that's, you know, regional or something like that. This is a national sport, but not every college has wrestling. And so it's really thin, man. Like if you're even a 3-timer, man, or a 2-timer and you're not going D1, that's not anything to like,
there's
be
no
ashamed of at all.
Yeah, there's no knock on that. If you're busting your tail and you're working hard and you're wrestling to the next level, like I said, no matter what level, my hat's off to you. You're amazing. You're a stud. In men's wrestling and women's wrestling, like you are going to the next level. That's something to be proud of. You should never fault yourself or say, "Oh, I'm not Division I, no matter." No, that's not true at all.
Well, Brandon, thank you for coming on the podcast again. I'm going to cut the Instagram feed now. Guys, if you want to continue the conversation, we still got a lot more for Brandon Kaylor. We're going to continue on YouTube, link in the description. So I'm going to end that there. But Brandon, your college career recently wrapped up. I got a couple questions here. Sam and I have a couple questions kind of all into one. But what did you learn about yourself? What are some of your favorite memories? And do you feel like you've accomplished your goals now looking back at it? Let's start the first one. What did you learn about yourself?
I learned that I'm tougher than I thought I was. I mean, I learned that it's a good thing to be proud of yourself. And it's a good thing to surround yourself with the right people that are also proud of you or care for you or love for you. That's like the biggest thing is, you know, in high school, I was definitely liked, I think, but in the wrestling community, everyone's like, oh, that guy's an a-hole. You know, that guy's just going to go out there and hurt you, you know, and it's that stigma, but that's not like all the time. I get people even now today. Thanks, Uncle Mike and stuff.
Uncle Mike just came through with a proud of you nephew comment. So yeah, sorry. Some
No
people
worries.
can't. They might be listening on the audio stream. You got to narrate the comment for them
Yeah.
sometime.
I'll meet. I love you too, Coach. Thanks.
Coach Pete De La Rosa here. Brandon, love you, dude. Love this podcast. That's awesome. Appreciate you, Coach Pete.
I'll meet people that at the most random spots that I wrestled in high school that I might have forgot or remembered. And they go, "Hey, do you remember me?" And I go, whether I do or don't, they always say, "Man, you're a lot nicer than I thought you were." I go, "What do you mean?" They go, "Oh, well, you dirty 30 me in high school. I was 30 to 15. I go, "Oh." And they go, "Yeah, you were like pushing my head in the mat and shoving me into tables and just being kind of like an a-hole." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sorry. I mean, it's just wrestling, you know, like there's no hard feelings. It's just the sport we live and we do. So I'm sorry about that." But I mean, I don't know if that really answers your question, but kind of along those lines of like, it's good to like be proud of yourself and kind of pat yourself on the back. Like you can do some great things in this sport, in this world. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
wrestling
hey,
shapes. Go ahead, Matt.
if you didn't know coming up to wrestle you that it was going to be a fight, then you ain't in the right sport probably. Also, my guy threw up 3 times before he came out and dirty 30'd you. So it's like crazy.
I was behind at the trash can puking. So
my guy puked before and after and didn't remember your name, but he's a really nice guy. If you want to come and talk to him afterwards.
You know when I realized that like everybody was actually pretty cool in this sport, like was when, and I don't know if it's different when you're wrestling, Brandon, but like before you get on the podium, they line you up, right? And you're all sitting in those chairs and you're wrestling the guy that you either just beat or just lost to. They're sitting right next to you, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like this awkward moment. You're kind of like looking like back and forth and you're like, well, it's my enemies. But now we're all kind of dogs now. Like we just did this together and like the results are what they are. And then you could just kind of realize like this sport is so special in that way that like it's such a character building thing, and the relationships that you build along the way is like Trevor Mills, who we haven't even talked about in this podcast yet, is like one of my best buddies right now. I beat him in the state finals my senior year, but we're coaching together at Kamiak High School right now. And we're coaching at Ascend together, and Matt's playing golf with him. And I played a few rounds of golf with him as well too. And it's just funny. Like, you know, I never would have thought in a million years that like this would be where we are nowadays, but that's how it is. And that's how wrestling is, man. It's super cool to see that.
Right. For real quick, shout out Coach Brady. Cub Camp. I'll see y'all soon. So that's just I see him in the corner. But yeah.
Yeah, he's there. Yeah.
We're gonna promo that for you guys too. So don't worry.
Perfect. But no, that's a real thing. You get on those chairs before the podium, you're like, dang, like, hey, we did this, you know, like, I mean, we did it. And it wasn't really apparent to me like as much until this last year after nationals. And you get the guys you grew up with, like in your age group, like a Pat McKee or an Eric Barnett. And we're all like, dang, like, hey, like, congrats on a great career. Like, we really just did this. We just competed since we were 6 years old and all the way through now being 23, 24 and grinding, getting our college degrees. And it's like that enemy, like, I hate you kind of goes away. And we're like, dang, like, hey, like if you need something, you're in the area, please hit me up and let me know. Like I'm here to help.
And
Love
Coach
that.
Pete's in the comments here. I got your comment, Coach Pete. Give me a sec. We're going to get there. That's the very next thing, I promise you. But the one thing I didn't want to skip by is, did you accomplish your goals? Or how do you feel about that? I mean, I'm sure being a national or NCAA champ would have been high up there, definitely. But I think hearing what you're saying is you now have a lot of perspective that you're able to look back on this. So I'll ask you straight up, did you accomplish your goals on this season or on your college career?
On this season, I'll hit you with the no. But on my career, yeah, I think that I'm proud of myself. I mean, obviously, yes, national champion, multiple time All-American. That's what every kid wants, every guy in college wants. But you know, you got to look back and celebrate what you did. I mean, the cooler thing about just being an All-American is who I did it with. Like those are like my best friends. Like those are guys I can go to for the rest of my life. Like that is that bond, brotherhood. Wrestling here changed my life and appreciating relationships more, following the Lord more. Like there's just different areas in life that I feel like improved and I'm thankful for, other than just outside of wrestling that I accomplished. That led to me being content with my career. Did I ever think I was going to be a 4-time state champ? No. Did I ever think like a Fargo champ was in my wheelhouse? Probably not. Let alone a Pac-12 title or becoming an All-American. Like I just never thought a kid like myself, who was always undersized, always loud and obnoxious, and always that goofy kid, could ever come as far as he did. So, but yeah, I think I achieved and accomplished a lot of things, and I'm more than happy with how my career went and played out.
All right, I'll let Coach Pete ask you this question from the comments section here, but what is Godfidence, Brandon Kaylor? You mentioned it before. Coach Pete is over here asking you, but it's really just about explaining it to the people here. So we understand that faith means a lot to you, but where did it come from? Where did Godfidence come from? And expand on your experiences with faith in wrestling.
So real quick, my teammate Devin Turner graduated. He has a tattoo that says Godfident, right? So, and he always says I stole it from him, but I claim it, right? So, but confidence is just having a confidence in the Lord and believing in Him and putting your full trust and heart into Him. I mean, we're human; we make mistakes. There's no one perfect on this earth. I'll never go have a perfect match or a perfect week or a perfect day, but I'm bound to fail at some point, right? So you can only put so much trust and confidence in yourself before you hit that wall or you lose or you go downhill. Or putting your trust in the Lord that's forever. That's eternal. That is, He's perfect. He's loving. So that's where confidence stems from, and helping me believe in myself and believe in Christ and pushing myself to the best of my abilities is where that comes from.
I love that. Nice, man. Let's transition into a little bit of your coaching stuff now. I know we're short on time, but we've been talking about it a little bit back and forth, just messaging each other back and forth before the podcast popped on. You got a pretty cool coaching opportunity down there in Corvallis, where you're at right now, right? You're in Corvallis at your place. So you're getting plugged into Beaver Dam RTC, which, for people who don't know, we touched on RTCs with Coach Owen. The regional training centers are usually associated with a college, a college program, but let's let you expand on that a little bit more. What is Beaver Dam RTC, and how are you getting plugged in with them?
Yeah, so Beaver Dam RTC is our regional training center here in Corvallis, where it helps athletes, obviously wrestlers, achieve their goals at the next level outside of collegiate athletics. And I've been given the opportunity to stick around, whether compete or coach, help this school. And I think that this university has a lot of great kids. I think this university has some of the best wrestlers and that can achieve their goals, but maybe they need an extra coach around, or maybe they need a mentor or an extra partner. So I've been blessed to be able to stick around and help coach and potentially compete. I'm still on the fence about that one. I mean, just like I said, I was at that camp in Vancouver, and Lee was there. He's a coach in California, head coach and middle school coach as well. And he also does the Titan Mercury media. And he was just chatting my ear off about it. And he goes, "What's holding you back? Why not? Why not compete some more? You're 24. You're young, man. Like, you got a lot left to give."
And my guy, we should have. I honestly, I'm shocked that I did not put this on the show sheet to ask you this question about whether or not you're done or not. Because yeah, like you just said, you're 24 years old. I'm 33. And I still, like, when I go into the wrestling room, sometimes I'm like, I got a little bit in the tank. Like, it's bad. Like, I walk away with a sore knee every time I leave there. But, when I was 24, are you kidding me? Well, I was, the top of my game back then.
You're an old man right now, Brandon, at 24. And old man at 24, Brandon. What's that?
Yeah, no, that's where I'm like, I've had my retirement stage. I had a great time finishing my degree and eating whatever I want, like whether it's you don't have to be as disciplined. But yeah, I mean, I'd still love to compete and see what I got. I mean, it's not like you have one bad tournament, everyone's like, "Oh, he's washed."
Yeah, he's dust.
You hear people say all the time, "Oh, David Taylor, he's washed." Okay, he lost to a 4-time national champ, and he's medaled 5 out of the last 6 years. You can't call him washed. Same with myself. I mean, I had some great wins this year. There's no doubt about it. Winning in Gallagher, Iba, or Rec Hall. I mean, and Carver Hawkeye, like, a win's a win. Mm-hmm. So I definitely got more to give, and that's between just praying about it, talking to my parents and the coaches to see what we think. But regardless of the fact, we're in coaching, so
we're so fresh off of the season too. I don't want to put any anything out there, any announcements or breaking news for our viewers or anything like that. But, you know, I feel like I almost did us a disservice not even asking the question. So it sounds like you're just taking it easy right now, and you're just, you know, kind of in the honeymoon stage, if you will, I suppose, of just getting off the NCAA tournament and relaxing and enjoying your meals and not cutting weight and not working too hard, but also kind of keeping it in the back of your mind as something that, you know, it's a possibility. We're not writing it off, right? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, definitely not knocking that off. That's still, I know my dad would love. He'd surely love me. And I know a lot of coaches and just people just want to.
I'd actually like to
We would love
ask
it.
you. I'd actually like to ask you about that Carver Hawkeye win. Can you break that down a little bit, because I know that was a really big deal for everybody, and I think that just in watching you over the last couple of weeks, just kind of knowing we wanted to have you on, I haven't got a chance to really sit down and like dive into a bunch of your matches, but man, your reshot is pretty incredible. And I would say that you're dominant with it. And I think that's what sealed the deal for you near the end of that match. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, Carver, I mean, it's legendary Carver Hawkeye Arena, you know? And before that match, Helen's like, you guys have something special to do here. Like, we're in probably the greatest wrestling state of all time. Like, the greats are here. And it's also no secret that every single year I've wrestled, I think I lost my first match of the season. I did this year and the year before and the year before that. So everyone's like, again, like, oh, he's washed. Yeah, maybe it was a fluke that he won. So to go into a big arena like that is a big deal, and scrape out a win. You're scrapping. So, I mean, it was a good match, just back and forth, takedown, escape. And maybe I probably shouldn't have given up some points that I did. And it gets to that point where there's a minute left in the third and you're down. And what's your go-to? What's your bread and butter? Like, are you confident in your best shot? And for me, that's my outside dump, and that's no secret.
Yeah, was he undefeated going into that? I forget. I don't know, but it was definitely an upset for sure, just because you were ranked, I think you were ranked 18th or whatever, but I didn't think that he was unbeatable, especially not. I mean, you proved it for sure. Yeah. But I want to say coming into that match, he was ranked 11. He may have lost one time before that, but to a top 10 person for sure. But
I'm not sure, but I mean, it was a dang good win in a good environment, and the team wrestled tough. I mean, yeah, that's one of those matches where, like, man, I did it. Like, and again, like I said, I was ranked like 18th, and that's because I lost to a kid I probably never should have lost to. And that's at that point you go from the hunted to the hunter. So you got to come back and change your mindset and think, okay, like let's beat this dude. He's the best, and let's just get after it.
Yeah, no, at the 125 weight class this year was absolute bananas, really. I mean, the rankings were up and down all over the place. Nobody could really guess, and then you go in, you beat him, and it's like, damn, and it was actually pretty cool. It obviously, those win, that win, and then the wins of change floating all the way over to your home state. That was a pretty big one, and I just want to say that it's tough because those guys are always known for like never breaking, or they work so hard they never break. Do you feel like you're even hit your peak? Really? That's something that, like, I would look at you and say, I don't know if Brandon Kaylor is anywhere near his peak yet. Like, a peak you could be unstoppable. And it's like, that's why it's tough for me to like, I'd love to hear you say, yeah, I'm ready to go compete. Cause like, I feel like the gas tank is full for you. Like, it's to hear what you just mentioned about how, oh, you had your coaches brand new to you, and then you got a full year with them, and then you went out and All-American. It's like, well, geez, how many, couple more years with them, like, you might be unbeatable,
Right. I mean, that's always in the conversation of like, when can I hit my ceiling? Well, when's my best? Like, is my best now? Was it years before? Is it in the future? And that's something that, like, I want to take a look at. Like, I want to dive into. Can I still compete? I mean, I'm still scrapping today, and I'm wrestling just fine in the room. You get that time off, that honeymoon phase, like you guys said, and you're thinking, okay, I had my time off, and your mind shifts a little bit, your attitude, and who you are changes a little bit. I'm thinking, okay, like your eyes open, you see things. You're a coach now. You're helping these guys now. Okay, like, dang, like, why didn't you think about that when you were competing?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
it's like
Coaching helps a lot, bro.
100%.
Like, I felt like once I started it and it was right about your age, I got a head coaching gig at Cedar Crest High School in Duval. And, I was living at home with my parents, but I was like, all right, like, I'm not going to leave the sport just yet. Now I'm a head coach. And it just puts you put that different cap on and you start to see things that you never saw the whole time. Since you said you were 6 years old, it was the same with me. I was wrestling at a super young age like that. And you're like, now that I'm explaining this to you, now it makes more sense why I do this. And now I understand why I can like branch off and like start to, figure out even more possibilities and more things within my own game and all that. And then you get that little bit of selfishness coming back in too, right? When you're coaching, you're a servant. But then at the same time, like I still get this, now when I'm in the room, I'm like, when are we going live, dude? Because
absolutely.
But yeah, that's awesome, brother. I love it. I love
it. Felicia's here. She says she's proud of you, BK. The BK, big BK, is on the podcast right now.
Yep, that's my second mom right there. Growing up,
that's awesome. And actually, Sam, sorry, I want to go back to that. Now that I've had you here, and I feel like you're able to like, give us the truth. So, not that we haven't had that, but I just get nervous as we continue this podcast that some people will say some stuff just to kind of, maybe not give a truthful answer per se. But you seem like perfectly genuine person, which is awesome. It's so good to hear, and especially how you talked about how like people think you're a meanie. You're not a meanie, dude. Brandon Kaylor's nice guy. Talk about your freshman year. So sorry, I had to go back a little bit, but I always know that the freshman year is real tough. You're in a new place, tough team.
Yeah.
You got to go in there and do your thing, but everybody's nervous. They're nervous their freshman year. Can you give a little bit of advice for some of these kids, especially in Washington State? That's our market, right? 2-time state champs, 3-timers. They're moving on. They're going to a new place. They're about to start their journey. Do you have something for them to maybe not lose sight of as they go into uncharted territories? Now they got to relearn how to be a good wrestler now because everybody in the room state champs, right?
Totally.
And what do you have for those kids?
I would just say be where your feet are. I mean, just be in that moment, be positive, be grateful. I mean, like we talked about earlier, not everyone gets to be in these situations or these college rooms or have the opportunity that these guys have. And just know that if you're like complaining, saying, I don't want to be here, there's thousands of people that would love to take your spot. There's days out there where I'm like, man, I don't even want to wrestle anymore. Like this is just so tough. And I got a tough duel coming up. And then coaches go, hey, if you don't want it, I mean, you got guys behind you on the team that want it, and puts in perspective like, oh, right. Like this is a blessing. This is a privilege. That's why it sucks. And I get frustrated when people are like complaining all the time saying, I don't want to be here. This is too tough. I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's wrestling. It's hard no matter where you go. Like just be grateful. So I say that. And I mean, you got two options, redshirt or wrestle. Neither one is really better than the other. They're about equal. So just take it and take ownership and believe in yourself. Like this is a great opportunity. There's no time than right now. That's what I would tell these freshmen.
And then what about your studies, Brandon? Especially as a freshman, because you're getting in, you're kind of figuring out all of a sudden wrestling's your day job, right? Because that seems to be, or at least how it was for me when I got to college. It's like, oh, I have to go to school, but it's like I'm focused 100% on wrestling and what I got to do and hang out with the coaches and being on weight. And so what do you have to say about the student life wrestling balance? Was it difficult for you your freshman year, or have you always been good at school, or can you talk about some of those ups and downs maybe?
I say I'm a hustler. I hustle. I get things done. You look at high school. I mean, my school was what, 7:20 a.m. to 2:20 p.m. That's a long day. That is really freaking long. And if you take that same ownership in high school and you put maybe an hour, 2 hours a day max into your studies in college, life's going to be just fine. If you wake up, go lift, come home, just 30 minutes an hour, go to practice, come back, 30 minutes an hour. It adds up and you'll get stuff done just fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of my best friends, Colt Doyle, I mean, he'll tell you himself, he went from having bad grades in high school to taking ownership, and now he has a master's degree. He's living a great life. He's married, and the future is just waiting for him, right? And he'll tell you the same thing. Like, you just got to take a little bit of ownership. You put so much pressure on yourself in the wrestling room that affects outside communications, outside relationships, your school, and put the damper on your life. You can't let that happen.
That's awesome. That's good word to tell these guys. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, just from my personal perspective, like I felt like like being a wrestler, it was almost easier in college. And I'm not knocking any, people who go out and are on the dean's list, or a vice president's list in college. But like for me personally, and I think a lot of people can echo the same sentiment, is like, you go into class day one and they're literally telling you when everything's due. Like there's no surprises. It's just like, it's like you're a grown ass adult. And like with wrestling, when we're trying to like plan and schedule things out, because it's very labor intensive in high school, right? You didn't know what was going to be showing up, when in your book, when you walked into history class in high school. In college, it's very structured. And I felt like that helped a lot, at least for me.
You got 6 periods in high school. I'm taking 3-4 classes a term. Like,
right.
I class twice a week.
Right. Yeah. 2 or 3 days a week, maybe. And if so, it's, one class is at 10 a.m., 11:30, and then you're good for the day,
That's where it's that ownership, because in high school, you work hard. Like you said, 6 classes, maybe a pop quiz here, extra test here or there. And then you get to college and you're like, man, 8 a.m. is kind of early. Like, do I really want in high school, you're waking up at 6:30 every single day.
Right.
Like just praying you'll have a late start because there's some snow on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're running a little late, Matt. Do you want to go through some rapid fire, or what do you want to do? Or should we talk golf?
Yeah, I want to talk about why Sam put golf on this thing. Do you golf, Brandon?
Yeah, I just started.
You just started. Okay. Yeah. Now, like a year, 2 years, or like 30 days ago? Just
coming up on a year.
Nice. So have you tracked your handicap yet, or what?
No, we play a lot of just scrambles, 4-man scrambles. I mean, last time I don't golf 18 because I do good on the front 9, and I'm like, I'll end on a high note. And by whole 14, 15, you're like, this sucks. Why did I even pay more money for this? But
you're like Cat Williams on the red tees, or what?
Yeah, on the white tees. Last time I golfed 18, I was maybe like a full 18 by myself. My own ball was last year, like last August. I shot like a 103. I'm not horrible.
Good,
that was a year ago. I think.
Bro, Sam just shot a 103. He's been golfing his whole life.
I shot a 101. I've been golfing my whole life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, we're getting pretty good. We want to do a little competition on the wrestling team here. I mean, both Coach Pendleton's, no secret, his wife played professional golf.
Oh, nice.
Yes, she's a beast. Coach Roden's wife played Division I golf. She's a beast. Wow. So naturally, we want to do, like, now that I'm graduated, like a coaches versus athletes, best ball scramble for punishment, maybe a little tournament. Coaches win however many shots over par you are. The athletes have to run that many miles.
Wow.
Just spicing things up on the.
You're about to run a marathon here.
Not me. I'm on the winning team. Don't worry. Okay. I'll be good, I promise. But yeah, we have a lot of guys that love, and I have some guys and girls on the golf team out here at Oregon State, just awesome people, and they're willing to take me out. So I'm going to take them up on that offer and see how good I can get. I like being good at things,
Yeah, no, I think wrestling and golf are like a really fun like pair because it gets you outside and you're not having to run miles outside. I mean, you could still walk the course and feel like you're doing yourself. Okay, he drives the course.
I'm a rider. I have a team tonight, actually. So.
Oh, nice. Okay. Like I said, just came off the course. But another thing is, do you wish at any point in time when you were 6 that your dad took you to a golf course instead of a wrestling mat? Tell me about it.
Well, he did. My parents did have me do like golf camps. My dad's dad, my grandpa on his side used to manage a golf course. So I was around golf. Like, we liked golf. I watched golf with him all the time, PGA championships, all that. Now that I'm older and I see these guys winning and I see the purse they're getting, then I think, that's way cooler than, torn labrum or something. I'm not saying a lot of golf friends that they put in work. but the return on investment, the upside, if you're doing well, is pretty dang cool.
Yeah, have you ever thought, that's actually a good, sorry, Sam. Yeah, it's actually a good question. Have you thought about taking your wrestling? Yes, you could compete nationally and go beyond high school or college, but what MMA has that ever been on your mind?
That's funny because that's the question. My girlfriend has a lot of friends that think, oh, dude, you're good at wrestling. You should go fight. Like, Demetrius Johnson? Like, yeah, I've met him. Oh, Daniel Cormier? Yeah, I've met him. I'm just hanging out with Austin O'Connor a couple weeks ago. He's starting his fighting career, and you see Bo Nickel doing well. Yeah, I mean, that's a question. The answer is no.
Oh,
Sorry to build that up. I don't like getting headbutted, let alone punched in the face. Do I think I could be somewhat decent at it and make it? Oh, 100%. I think I could. Do I want to? No. Like, would I think it'd be cool to have like my teammate Maximo fight in the UFC and be his wrestling coach? Oh, that to me sounds cool.
yeah, that does sound cool.
Now, do I want to go out there and get hit? You get slumped one time and you're on a highlight reel for the rest of your life.
Oh, I know, right?
But ask him as he did in wrestling in college. You just see him getting kneed in the face by Masvidal. That'll never live down.
Yeah, that is pretty tough, isn't it? When you're talking about Askren, yeah, when you're talking about getting slumped and it's a highlight reel forever. Well, there's one guy we all know, and
you Google me on YouTube and I'm getting pinned. That sucks. Now you Google me and I get knocked out. That doesn't even compare.
100 times worse for sure.
All right, how'd you hit with fast rapid fire?
Yeah, well, real quick on the golf thing. Last thing, how'd you end up golfing with DC? I saw you on Instagram golfing with him. And was it who else was there? Deron Wynn, right?
No, it was me. No, me, Daniel Cormier, Gary Traub, who wrestled for us as a heavyweight, Ryan Jack at NC State, and Vincent Robinson from NC State. We Pendleton goes, hey, DC wants to know if you want to come out and help train his boys to get ready for World Team Trials, and he'll fly you out and he'll house you and you'll have some fun. I'm like, yeah, I mean that's
hard to say no.
Yeah, I mean, was it hard? Yeah. Were those workouts tough? Yeah. Was it worth it? 100%. I mean, you see a guy on TV and you think, man, what's he like in real life? He's awesome. He's a ball of energy. He's amazing. He's an amazing guy. And so are his kids and all those guys around him. So it was an awesome opportunity.
How's his golf game though?
It's good. Yeah. It's better than I thought. Because you see on TV, like you watch these guys on YouTube, you see them having vlogs or people literally filming their day-to-day lives, and you think, is he like, what's he like? No, he's amazing. Good golfer and an even better guy. So
that's awesome. All right, I guess I'll start it off. Freestyle or folk style? I know we got into it before, but pick one. You got to pick one. You can't pick two. Can't take the easy way out, Brandon.
Okay, freestyle.
All right, fine. That's, everybody we've asked that question to is pick freestyle.
Okay, then folk style.
Okay, hey, I'm a salesman by trade, so just let you know, I just sold you on the alternate side. So that's how that worked. That was the easy one. Go ahead, Sam.
We haven't asked this question yet, but I'm really curious, especially somebody who's already done the whole high school thing and has graduated and moved on. We didn't ask London this, but all-time best region for wrestling in Washington State. There's 5 of them to me. You've got the North Sound, which is mine and Matt's. You got that, so that's like Lake Stevens, Arlington, those schools and stuff. You got the South Sound, which will be you, Tahoma, Auburn, Lincoln, Yakima Valley, which would be like Toppenish, Sunnyside, and then Vancouver, which is like Skyview, Union, Camas, or 5th one, Spokane, which is really tough too. You got Mead and like U-High and stuff.
Yeah.
You're picking the home one.
I'm picking home. I'm biased. I mean, you look at guys that go to the next level. Obviously, everyone, like you're talking North Sound, you got your All-Americans out of me, out of Chandler Rogers, Tate Orndorff. Like you got All-Americans there. But in recent years, I'm gonna go with my hometown. Me, Alex Cruz, Yusuf Lilly, Brendan Schwanna people. Like you got some, and now AJ Salguero, Quentin Harding. Like you got some dudes. Like
I kind of tend to agree, man. I think the South Sound is probably the best. You could make a good argument for Spokane, and even like Vancouver recently with Skyview and stuff has really been showing up. But when you throw in Tahoma and Ording into one region, I just feel like that kind of is the end of the conversation.
10, 15 years ago, I'd say probably Spokane. Like that's just the way the cookie crumbles with the guys that were in that area. Chandler, Jordan, Rogers. Like you got some tough guys, and Isaiah Quintanilla, Clay. But recent years, I'm gonna have to rock with us.
All right, best wrestler you've ever competed against on or at any level. So we can go back to 6 years old, you puking on the side of the mat, about to wrestle, or last year, best guy.
Pat Glory. I mean, national
Pat
champ.
Glory.
I mean, he's pretty tough. We had like a 7-4 match. It's real tough. I mean, that's a tough one. But yeah, I'll just say Pat.
That's a good one. Princeton, right? Pat
Yep.
Glory. Yep. Nice. All right. How about, well, this is going to be kind of on the same lines. How about your best or your favorite win of your wrestling career all time?
Pac-12s last year.
Against
Beating
Courtney?
beating a guy I never beat. And we won a Pac-12 title. So that was the spark of it.
Nice.
Best pound for pound wrestler coming back to the NCAAs next year.
Carter Sirachi.
That's what I was going to say. I think he was going to say it too.
That's hard to argue that.
That was a layup. That was a layup. Go ahead, Sam.
All right.
I think
All right. Last one. Favorite takedown or move that you've ever mastered like that? I mean, I think we already know what this is.
Yeah.
The dump.
Yeah, 100%. Leg lead, outside dump.
The one that we didn't put on here that we should ask, though, is if Washington had a D1 program and it was Wazoo or UW, what team are you going to wrestle for?
Oh, man.
I know being in Oregon State, that's like blasphemy, but right now it ain't anymore, I don't think.
Oh, man. I mean, my sister went to Wazoo. My uncle went to UW.
Who do you like better?
I'm a neither fan. I was a Boise State fan growing up, but I'll say Wazoo. Like, I like Wazoo more. That's more family ties there, but UW's closer to home, so
I think Justice said Wazoo too. So you guys both on the Wazoo team, I think pretty good one. Or was that Trey? We
no,
need
it was Justice team. And Trey didn't know. But London was 100% set on UW. So we're not doing great on the numbers here, but that's okay. You know,
yeah,
we're Oregon State guy. I knew that was going to be a tough one.
Yeah, Oregon State, Boise State, Wazoo, UW.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, but Brandon, thank you for coming on the podcast today. You gave us an hour and a half of your time for the people, for us. That's crazy. We didn't ask you for this much time, but we appreciate you giving it to us. We're going to let you go, but let's plug the wrestling camp again, July 24th or 25th through 27th up at Cedar Woolley. Ridge Lovett. Go ahead. Plug that whole thing again.
Yeah,
I forgot
me, Ridge Lovett, Mason Ranich, Brock Hardy, and the Wazoo wrestling team. There you go, Wazoo plug. Thank you for coming. So, I mean, it's just great opportunity to get better. And yeah, I'm excited and I love camps. If you guys ever need someone, like I'm all for it. So.
Well, we might try to put on a camp ourselves, Sam, for the future. That's something that we got a lot of stuff in the works. Brandon, don't let the cat out the bag yet. We've already been talking. No, we haven't talked to Brandon yet, but now we know Brandon's going to come to a camp for us. That'd be great. No, I'd love to have you, or at least at some capacity, because you're a legend, man. 4-time state champion, Bonnie Lake High School. Now, would you actually? Are you saying like, hey, I'm a Bonnie Laker for life, or now you an OSU guy for life? If somebody comes up to you, it's like, hey, I'm Brandon Kaylor. I went to Bonnie Lake, 4-time state champion, or I went to Oregon State. Which one are you?
It's close. I'm a Beaver.
Okay, there you go. Yep, there you go. Yeah. All right, everybody. That is Brandon Kaylor. Brandon, how can everybody find you on social media? You got an @
Yeah, BK_Kaylor, like Taylor with a K, 07. I just want to say thank you to you guys for having me on here. I'd love to do it again. God bless you all and go Beavs, man.
That's awesome, Brandon. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll let you go. All right, there goes Brandon. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate you, Sam. That was really great. Brandon, he gave us a lot, man, and he was being truthful. You know what I mean? And we have not had a guest yet that I felt like has lied to us or just has been not truthful. It's so awesome. We're blessed to have all these great guests come on and really enjoy being here. And I just think it's so cool. Thank you for the comments, Coach Pete. You helped us through this. That's so awesome. Sam, what final words, my guy?
Yeah, no, I was just telling Brandon this before we started the podcast, before I gave him the link to the episode. It was just like, hey man, this is, because he was asking some questions about it. I was like, we're not asking about politics or anything. We're just here to shoot the breeze about wrestling. And like, once these are all done, every single time, I'm just like, dude, I just gained another relationship. I gained another friend within the sport. And I hope that you guys can feel a little bit of that too, as you're listening and tuning in. It's like, you know, walk up to him at a tournament and say, hey, you know, I loved hearing from you. I loved your perspective and stuff. It really helped me, because it's helping me, you know, just as a coach and as a person in this community, and just another fantastic guest. And like we said, probably arguably one of the greatest wrestlers ever to come out of the state as far as creds go. So super, super thankful for Brandon coming on, and excited to do another one.
Yeah, we should have him right back on. That'd be awesome. But I would say probably moment of the podcast is when he talked about embracing. He read the book. The book essentially told him he was basically focusing on the grind itself. Like, hey, I'm doing the work. I did the workout. I should be getting better, or I should be feeling better about it. And it's like, hey, go back, do some more workouts. Like, it's not the workout. The workout is not why we're here. Right. And embracing the grind, getting through it, finding out why you're here. Right. We want to get better. We don't need to be the best, but we prepare to be the best. Right. And hearing him talk about that, I think is really great. It's really tough to do that. And that's something for me as a coach, I'm going to take back to my team, because I got a couple guys right now on my team that it's just like, they do the workout and it's like the workout overcame them, and that's all we are focused on. And it's, we got to get past that, you know? And so maybe I should have them read the book. I got a book reference from our friend here tonight. So
if it worked for Brandon, it could work for almost anybody. You got to think, right? So, I mean, that's fantastic.
Oh, and the nervousness before the thing. Did you know anything about that?
Yeah, I was looking at some videos and stuff about him talking about throwing up and all that, and that really hit home with me, because just the pressure cooker with my career started to unfold, and I was just sweaty palms, and man,
Jojo McD with a comment. Good show, coaches. Appreciate you, Jojo. Thank you.
Congrats
guys
on the graduation too. If that's actually Jojo McDaniel, it's got to be, right. Yeah. So, we all deal with it. Some of us handle it better than others. Some of us who have a hard time with it really need to try and find out how to capture that nervousness. And sometimes you listen to people and stuff and it just doesn't really resonate, but sometimes you hear it from people like that who wrestled on a really high level, and it hits home with you. And, hopefully if you're listening and you found out that either the book or just listening to his life experiences was a benefit for you, and that's a win. And I think we all go through it.
Sometimes as coaches, it was cool to hear what Brandon had said about his dad, where his dad was like, why don't you just go to this coach, then, and see if you can get something else. Then he ends up going to that coach and realizing like what his dad was trying to do,
right.
And like, that's how I feel like we deal with, some of our kids might look at us and be like, I think I know better than you. And it's like, all right, man, I'm not saying that like you don't. Go figure it out, and then it gives them a little bit of perspective, right? I think we all have this love-hate relationship with our high school wrestling coaches, because they put you through a bunch, and like you're growing, you're a growing person. You're figuring out a lot about these different anxieties and stuff going on in your normal life. And then you go, like Brandon said, you go 6 periods a day, you wake up at 6:30, and then your wrestling coach is the last guy to put you through some crap. And it's just like, man, it's the last thing you want to do sometimes. And I sometimes have to put that in my own process, because, I donate a lot of my time to the teams, the kids, to our off-season program, to everything that we're doing. And sometimes getting that resistance from the kid, not to me personally, but I know I've reached out to a lot of coaches, and they kind of feel like disrespected a little bit about that resistance. Right. And sometimes for me, it's really good to kind of just sit back for a second and remember what it was like for me to be in those times. Like, I had that same resistance at times to my coaches, because I had a lot going on in my life, or this, that, and the other. And sometimes it's not about coaching them. It's about just giving them a hug, tell them they're doing a great job, and say that you're really happy to see them, because I am, and getting a chance to do this as a coach now, and kind of look, see about all these kids and see how much potential they all have, and trying to figure out unique ways to get all that potential out. of these kids while also being their friend, a second father, stuff like that to them. I think it's great. And just as much as I'm learning how to do it, they're learning too. And we're all learning together. And I just think it's kind of cool. We all need to kind of take a step back for a second, take a breather. We're going to get through this, right?
Yeah.
We're going to get through this. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Brandon Kaylor was a great guest. Guys, we have a lot of fun stuff coming up on the horizon. That was 5 podcasts, Sam.
5 down.
5 down, 55 more to go. We got rankings, early rankings coming out. If you have stayed late enough, you've just found out we got early rankings coming out. But Sam, I hope you have a great weekend, brother. I hope it was good for you. I hope you got an extra day to rest and relax. And let's get the next guest on, huh?
Let's do it, man. Yeah, like Matt said, we got rankings already in the works, almost fully updated at this point, except for incoming freshmen, which we'll get to. But yeah, those are coming down the pike. And then yeah, we're gonna keep bringing guests on. This is too much fun, dude. Like we're just gonna keep doing this. So.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for tuning in. He is Sam Otto. I am Matt, and we will see you guys next time.